Oh, welcome to the Bill Mason Show. How you doing today, Bill?
I'm doing good. It's a Thursday edition. I was hoping to have a whole lot better news for all of our listeners and watchers out there, but it seems to be pretty much the same old thing going on. And the things that are running in the background are, of course, not going to be talked about. But Donald Trump keeps kind of trying to beat the drum, that defunding the police and some of the things that are on everybody else's television station, NBC and CSNBC and CNN, like it's the best idea they've ever had. Trump is going, absolutely not. That's not part of the program.
Hmm. Yeah, it's true. So there's a lot going on. I mean, Trump is in Dallas talking about police reform. Tonight, we're going to talk about that. We have Project Veritas video, another breaking
Yes.
one today about Antifa. Soros is giving money to Antifa.
Hmm.
We already knew that, but we're going to show you the undercover video about that.
Yep.
Uh, White House press secretary, when these statues and stuff come down, are we going to take down every one of them? Because we're going to see
Yeah,
what's
they
going
want
on.
to. I mean, changing the names of military bases that have been, that way for 60, 70 years now. I mean, come on, man. It's to the point where they just think now, because I mean, I don't know if we're going to talk about Seattle being overtaken, but like they give a list of demands and they expect everyone to be like, oh, okay, yeah, sure,
Hmm.
we'll do that, whatever you want.
Yeah, there's like a 4 block area where there's somebody just took it over, and there's a
They just took it
warlord
over.
there. Yeah,
Yeah, and the mayor is just like, yeah, I
I
don't
know.
know what to do about that. I'm like, what do
Yeah,
you mean you don't know what to do? You're the mayor.
yeah. It'd
It's
be
your
like
city.
Escape from Seattle all over again. You know, Escape from New York, Escape from L.A.
It's so bad.
Yes,
I
it's
feel,
bad.
I feel bad for the people that live in that area that have to tolerate this type of stuff. Like, some of the people that I've heard talk about it, they have a pretty high tax rate. From what I understand, I think it's like 13. It's a sales tax. It's like 13% sales tax, where people drive to other states to go buy stuff, and
Wow.
and then they have to tolerate these rallies and Antifa and stuff like that, and then now they just watch their center city get taken over by, like, and I mean, it's crazy to pay those types of taxes to live in this, like, oh yeah, we're protecting you, and we have this great community and there's a Starbucks on every corner, but I mean, you can't go out of your house now. It's like, like you said, escape from Seattle. It's terrible.
Right. I mean, it looks like if you lived in that 4 block area, think about it. You have
Yeah.
a warlord over your area, and you can't help call for police either because they won't come.
No, and like I said, they gave a list of demands, and they're not going to relinquish that area until their demands are met.
Hmm.
To me, that's like either a hostage situation or a terrorist,
Right.
attack. I mean, how do you sum that up as anything else as protest? It's beyond me.
That is definitely not protest. That is
No, it's
ridiculous.
not. It's not any
No.
form of protest.
No. All right. So next, we're going to do a little commercial break, and we're going to come back, and we're going to talk about all these things. Plus, we're going to talk about the Antifa with Soros. We're going to talk about Trump trying to put down law and order. So we'll see what he says. So let's go ahead and go to commercial break. We'll be right back.
All right, be right back.
Do you experience ongoing severe depression, headaches, long bouts of uncontrollable crying? Have you tried therapy? You may suffer from TDS. Trump derangement syndrome is a serious illness that attacks the central nervous system. It can lead to public embarrassment, extreme rage, sometimes even violence. TDS is made worse by consuming fake news media from corporations such as NPR and CNN. But you're not alone. TDS affects over half of Democrats and nearly 99% of leftists. Doctors are beginning to understand the illness. TDS interferes with the areas of the brain that are responsible for rational thinking and that regulate appropriate emotional responses. With this knowledge, scientists have innovated a new treatment for TDS. TDS. Introducing Trump Zalta. Trump Zalta is the only known treatment for TDS. If others have mentioned that you may have TDS, you can speak with your doctor to see if Trump Zalta is right for you. Become you again. Trump Zalta is not right for everyone. Some common side effects are hallucinations, clinical insanity, stomach cramps, and rapid onset explosive diarrhea. Ask your doctor about Trump Zalta.
Battle for liberty. This is the Bill Mason Show.
Thanks for joining us, Bill Mason Show. Thanks for coming back to us at our break. And we have a lot to discuss tonight.
That we do. And if any parts of our show offend you, you might want to talk to your doctor and try Trump Zalta.
Trump Zalta is our sponsor, by the way. So
Yes.
make sure you get some if it offends you. So the show. So it will help. It has helped a lot of people, actually.
Yeah, it seems to be working. It's either that or the fact that Joe Biden is running and people are just awakening to the fact that you cannot vote blue no matter who, or you will get Joe.
All right, so let's go back to Seattle. So again, a warlord has taken over the city.
Yeah.
4 blocks, actually, 4 blocks of the city. Just think about it. Say somebody in your neighborhood or my neighborhood or your neighborhood took over 4 blocks of your neighborhood and declared him the leader.
Yeah, and not only roped it off, tipped over garbage cans, dumpsters, lit fires to like establish this cordon of their little and they also are declaring it not part of the United States. kind of funny how they're trying to pull that off, but the fact that the mayor's entertaining this little tantrum is beyond me, and it just one more thing that shows that these guys don't understand how to control a city. Like, you can't let that happen.
No,
that's too much.
that is way too much. I mean, understand that the rapper that is in charge of these 4 blocks, they're going around to different residences and getting food because there's not enough food for everybody,
Right.
and then distributing that, taking food away from the homeless that they had. So anyway, so he's the warlord. He's coming to get your food, and you can't call for help.
No, not at all. And he's actually threatening to shut the water off. So one thing I read, that they got a hold of one of those giant keys, like a city municipal would have to turn off and on the water. So now they're threatening to like turn off and on water, and like nobody's doing anything. This is nonsense, man. No wonder. I think Trump mentioned that like if he's given him a certain amount of time, and then like he threatened to do, he's going to protect American citizens. And this is just way out of the league, where if the mayor and the governor can't get together and handle it, I guess he's going to have to.
Yeah, it's way out of left field, and no pun intended.
Yeah.
All right, so we have an Antifa video here that's kind of earth-shattering. Looks like George Soros, as we knew before, that is funding Antifa. Antifa.
We've been telling you for about a year now.
Yeah. I mean, Antifa is a terrorist organization. It's been designated that. And all they do is cause trouble. So let's take a look at the video.
All right.
Applied for a grant from Soros at one point, just a long time ago. We actually did get a grant from them. There is going to be a need for thousands of people and then millions to come into the streets.
We're trying to meet with Tom Steyer. We've been talking to his assistant. We're meeting with his main advisor on impeachment. I think he has political ambitions that he may actually want to not be directly connected. In Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York, this at a certain point dominates the national news. It's a very disruptive force.
Last week, we released video of New York Antifa-like group Refuse Fa, short for Refuse Fascism, training people how to poke people's eyes out and reframing assault as self-defense.
Yeah, so if that doesn't knock them out, then yeah, the nose, the face, the eyes, poke the eyes with the other day. Absolutely. We just kind of want to, in the space, reframe the idea of self-defense as not simply you're being acted upon by an aggressor, but it's a kind of a decision you make to fight back. In a lot of ways to say, I'm human and I occupy this space and I'll be not.
Now today, we unmask undercover footage of their national organizer, the national organizer for Refuse Fascism, and we release footage that suggests who might even be funding their militant operation.
The ultimate vision is for people to break with their comfort and come into the streets day after day, night after night, in the hundreds of thousands until the millions, and not leave until they have to step down. The thing about this is that we see that this is not going to happen through normal channels because we are living in abnormal times. And the way we see this is that there is going to be a need for thousands of people and then millions to come into the streets and demand that the Trump-Pence regime must go. We did apply for a grant from Soros at one point, a long time ago, when I was doing more abortion rights and defending clinics. We actually did get a grant from them around, we started a thing called the National Day of Appreciation for Abortion Providers. Contributing money is a huge, look, we are not going to reach millions without millions. That's just straight up. We are not going to do it. We need millions of dollars to reach millions of people. You know, if you can get a meeting with either one of those, Sarah Taylor or Andy Z, it would be a very important experience in your life.
We're trying to meet with Tom Steyer.
And what?
Right now, I don't know if we took the meeting today. We're meeting with his main advisor on impeachment. They kind of, I don't know who that is. Is somebody?
That's kind of a big deal. I mean, that's.
We're meeting. We've been talking to his assistant. He first said he was going to meet. Then he got busy. He made the announcement. Tom Steyer's been retweeting some of our stuff.
Yep.
And I wouldn't be surprised if he's going to want to. I think he has. This is only me speaking based on reading newspapers from New York. I think he has political ambitions.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's always been the rumor he's going to run for governor.
That he may actually want to not be directly connected.
It's not just Soros and Steyer who may have interest in groups like Refuse Fa and Antifa. It's also our friends in Silicon Valley.
We're going to be meeting with the person who's donated. His money's not part of the 80,000, but he's donated over 50,000. We have other donor people who donated 10,000. So actually, you're not first. But you're not first, but you are first. And that if we could have, right now, $15,000, which is not very much money extra, this $15,000, what I've learned on this tour is we should have 3 of these tours going out to campuses right now. I met with the Electronic Frontier Foundation. I think you're familiar with them. They're the main people for fighting around net neutrality and all this stuff.
The Frontier what?
The Electronic Frontier Foundation.
Okay.
It's the main organization that fights for internet privacy, net neutrality. It's a major organization. I met with them. They're in San Francisco, headquartered in San Francisco, and they're going to help us to get connected.
Our cities are on fire. With riots in the streets and elections at stake, everything seems so organized. It's not a surprise that presidential campaigns might get involved.
P.Z. Myers, Cornel West, Arturo O'Farrell. And these are major figures in the arts and sciences who are definitely not revolutionaries, okay? And you'll see there's people, Hillary campaign people work with diffuse fascism, because they see the danger. You have to create a kind of demand from below.
For what?
The kind of demand from below that the Trump-Pence regime must go.
Yeah.
Where there's
the abolition.
Yeah, where there's the kind of situation that did exist in South Korea, where the society itself is both a serious crisis in that, just imagine if, let's put millions aside for a second, that there was 10 to 50,000 people demonstrating in those 5 cities, which if they were demonstrating there, I can tell you from history, it would be spreading like wildfire and storming. That number of people who were protesting, at first maybe every week and then every 3 days and then every other day, where people were coming after work and the streets were flooded every night from 5 o'clock till 1 o'clock in the morning, and there was probably among younger people there'd be a few thousand who stayed overnight. And this was happening in Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York. And this at a certain point dominates the national news. Cities are in a certain sense non-violent demonstrations, but that still is a very disruptive force. That has international repercussions. Look at what's happening in the U.S.
There you go. So, yeah, it's a very good video. They put very, very good videos, and undercover, of course. These are hidden mics.
Yeah, it's really hard to do, and I love Project Veritas, and if anybody wants to throw them a couple bucks or whatever, you can go right to their website and do it, because he has been running this for a long time. Like, these investigations, sometimes these people have to build trust, man. And they have to maybe meet with these people 5-10 times. It might take a few dinners, and people like that guy Andy Z or whatever, he's famous for he'll meet you for drinks and buy drinks for you, but the next time you go out, you're buying dinner. He's one of those like socialist types where he's like, hey, I helped you, you helped me, and then my connections are worth so much money. And you see that, like, he's touting the people he knows, because they sell that almost like as a means to earn money or influence. Right. Like they talked about the other day about, like, in the 1950s, the boom of America. Like, some people talk about, when Trump talks about make America great again, he's talking about the feeling of the 1950s after winning World War II, and everybody felt like an entrepreneur or a family man that was focused and wanted to build a better mousetrap, right? Because everybody had a mouse problem, and if you built the better mousetrap, you could succeed, and everybody could try, and there's a lot of room for improvement. Well, these guys are the opposite of that. They want to ban the mousetrap and breed the mice. You know what I mean? Like, what they're doing doesn't help a country. It tears it to shreds. There's no room to advance for those poor people that they're using. They're using these protesters, because you heard them say in the interview, like, oh, they don't have anywhere else to go, and some of them can stay all night, and we really want to keep this movement going, because to them, it's not them out in the streets all night long sleeping in a park. Right. They're using these people, man.
They are. And they're causing trouble. They're throwing bricks and making people act violent.
Yeah, and we've also released other videos where they're paid. They are paid to do that. I mean, you take a person who, whatever, is a barista at Starbucks making $500 a week, and say, hey, you want to make $5,000? You show up at this place, and there's a certain couple of things you have to do, and then we'll pay you. And literally, they can do that in 4 or 5 areas at once, and it does look like a riot. And I think that's probably what they accomplished, piggybacking onto George Floyd. Right. George Floyd, when it started, was mostly peaceful. A lot of people emotionally hurt and moved, and felt terrible and were actually mourning. And then you bring in Antifa and they're like, hey man, how pissed are you? Here, you want a brick? You know what I mean? And it turned into what we saw and what we're still seeing. Like there's still Antifa movements around. Like I said, I can only speak for Philly, but they're still here, you know?
Yeah, they're still around. They're still causing trouble. Moving on. Before we move on, I just got a breaking news that the Seattle mayor called the people who took over that 4-block area patriots.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Yes.
That is absolutely crazy, man. That
I don't know.
And that's like a how to not control your city.
Right.
That's what that is. So if that guy's a patriot, what's to stop me from declaring, oh, I'm a patriot. I want where his territory ends, and I want my 4 blocks.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, everybody gets their 4 blocks. And then what's left to Seattle? I mean, this is nuts.
We have the country of Bill.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, I would love it because, you know, it would be, you know, my own sovereign land. But I mean, you can't do that because as people, you know, naturally want, you know, a few things. You want food, you want shelter and security. Right. Well, you're basically cutting into the security instantly. And how long before he starts cutting into the food? You know, like where these people go shop and where they get their stuff. And we've already seen those supply lines, you know, dip and get hurt really bad by riots and civil unrest. It creates supply line things. Like, for example, the business that I'm in, the stuff that I move that comes out of St. Louis, when there's riots in St. Louis, it doesn't leave. So then it creates dry spots all over the country that are waiting for these deliveries and they're not getting them. I mean, this is something that, like, you really affect people that aren't even in the fight. You're affecting the elderly and you're affecting people that need like their oxygen delivered or whatever, like whatever it may be. You're making this point for just you. It's a selfish thing to do. And you're hurting everybody around there. It's terrible.
It is terrible. All right. So we're going to go on to the White House press secretary about changing names or taking down statues. So, and I don't mind taking down some statues, Confederate maybe. Statues, I don't know, but the taking down George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, our presidents of the United States, that's where I draw the line.
Renaming military bases and you know, schools. They're talking about schools now. Like, where does it end, man?
It's never going to end. So let's take a look at this.
Fort Bragg is known for the heroes within it that trained there, that deployed from there, and it's an insult to say to the men and women who left there the last thing they saw on American soil before going overseas, and in some cases losing their lives, to tell them that what they left was inherently a racist institution because of a name. That's unacceptable to the president, and rightfully so. And I would also note, where do you draw the line here? I'm told that no longer can you find on HBO Gone with the Wind because somehow that is now offensive. Where do you draw the line? Should George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and James Madison be erased from history? What about FDR and because of internment camps? You know, should he be erased from history, or Lyndon Johnson, who has a history of documented racist statements? And finally, what about people that are alleged by the media to be segregationists? NBC tells us Joe Biden didn't just compromise with segregationists, he fought for their causes in schools, experts say. CNN tells us letters from Joe Biden reveal how he sought support of segregationists in the fight against busing. And Washington Post tells us that Biden's tough talk on 1970s schools desegregation plans could get him new scrutiny. And there are several more where that came from. So I'll leave you with the question, should we then rename the Biden Welcome Center? Thanks very much, guys.
There we go. So, I mean, a lot of those names she mentioned were all Democrats. I mean, are we going to get rid of their statues?
Well, I mean, honestly, the other thing I wanted to touch on too is that all of these schools and post office and street names and stuff that they do, that all takes place in the Senate. Like, these senators are so proud. Like, and the only reason I know this is because I'm always watching what they're doing. And I go to congress.gov all the time. And I can remember looking down there and seeing, like, man, what did they do in like the month of February or whatever? And I'm looking through and it's like, oh, Senate voted to rename the Henry J. Smith, you know, whatever center. And like, they do this. Like, this is what they do. They name these things, the Woodrow Wilson Elementary School and the, whatever. Like, they are the ones who change the names. And now all of a sudden they want to go back because now we have a different perspective on it. And now historically, we don't want, Thomas Jefferson Memorial, and we don't want all this stuff. I mean, it's to the point where, okay, so we're just going to just scrape America away and just re-put whatever you want on top. I mean, that is crazy, because what are we without our history? We have to learn from history, obviously. Right. We made mistakes as a country, but we obviously repaired them and made a situation where people can start to thrive if they really try. And I mean, that's what I want for my kids, and that's how I look at MAGA.
Exactly. I mean, I want everybody to prosper and have a good life and everything, no matter what kind of race they're in.
Right. So, there's no color to MAGA. Like, if you make America great again, everybody does great. That's the thing. Like, it has nothing to do with racism, and it never has. Right. Because when America's great, everyone does great. Everybody feels great, and it's just a momentum. It's a movement. So I mean,
trying to get jobs back for everybody, not for just people of a certain race. It's everybody.
Right. Yeah. Right. And if I start a business and I need people to do things or whatever, I want people that come in and they want my job, or I want people that want to be me if I'm the guy that runs the company, because guess what? That means that I moved up too. So if they're going to be me, then that means I am doing something better. So, I mean, it's just the glass ceiling is broken when you make America great again. And that's the part that people don't understand. They made this. The Democrats made the red hat and the slogan into something racial when it's literally clearing the path for everybody to do better. It makes no sense.
It doesn't. So we have Trump on today about law and order. Let's take a look into what he said today.
Talk to me about police reform. You call yourself the law and order president. What does that mean?
Well, we are going to do lots of, I think, good things, but we also have to keep our police and our law enforcement strong. They have to do it right. They have to be trained in a proper manner. They have to do it right. Again, the sad thing is that they are very professional, but when you see an event like that with the more than 8 minutes of horror. That's 8 minutes really of horror. It's a disgrace. And then people start saying, well, are all police like that? They don't know. Maybe they don't think about it that much. It doesn't make any difference. The fact is they start saying, well, police are like that. Police aren't like that. I mean, I've seen so many incredible things that they do, but you don't see that.
Yeah, so everybody has a bad apple, and that's where we're going to go to another video about Trump talking about bad apples. Every company, every organization has bad apples, and unfortunately, the person who didn't let up on George Floyd was a bad apple.
Yeah, and had other write-ups. He was reprimanded for excessive use of force before that incident. So if you followed the trail, of this guy, he seemed to be like a kind of a loose cannon. Even the nightclub owner that he apparently worked with George Floyd. I know a lot of people haven't touched on this stuff, but the nightclub owner preferred that Chauvin stay outside and not be inside the club. And Floyd was an inside the club doorman, and Chauvin was outside. So once the bouncers said, hey, this guy's a problem, boom, get out, then Chauvin disciplined him. And apparently he bragged about pepper spraying this guy and doing, this hold on this guy. And, I bent this guy's wrist, like constantly bragging about his use of force. So it's not like this guy wasn't on people's radar, so theoretically that whole system that was in place was all Democratic anyway, and they keep trying to, like I said, with strands of yarn, trying to make this Donald Trump's fault, or basically like the police has become a Republican organization because Republicans support the police. You know why? Because like I said before, you want food and shelter and security because that makes everything okay. Right. And security is part of the police. So yeah, sure, I do support those. I need that. I want to pick up the phone and go, 911, please help. You know, I don't want to hear toot, toot, toot.
No, we don't want to hear that. I mean,
No.
I think we still have that video. Actually.
Yeah.
Let's play that real
They're
quick.
like 911.
We're sorry. You have reached a number that has been disconnected or is no longer in service.
There we go.
I don't want to live in that country.
I
honestly don't. You know, and the other thing that Trump touched on, so like everybody's going, well, what kind of reforms are you prepared to do? Are you prepared to, you know, have one of the things that came up today, I read in an article, they want to have this oversight board that is actually tied into some kind of national open border society or something like that. So basically they want to be a watchdog to make sure that illegal aliens aren't mistreated and have the police basically oversaw by this one group. That's one of the suggestions. But the problem with that is that not everybody has that issue. Like if you're in Texas or Arizona or New Mexico, okay, you're probably dealing with a crap ton of those guys every day. But when the police respond to a call, it's first guy on the scene. A first responder doesn't get a chance to make the racial judgment call that they think everybody does. They literally walk in blind to a call and they get a radio dispatch. They're like, you know, whatever, car 54, you know, please respond. And they go there and now they have to assess the situation based on who's there. They don't get to be like, you know what, those guys are Mexican, I'm going to pass on that. You know, it's not how it works. They just, whoever's there in the district shows up. So those guys have to assess the situation. And yes, some guys are, you know, like guys I grew up with. I grew up with guys that the first sign of trouble, they want to fight. They'll never talk their way out of it. I'm sure there are guys like that in the police force. And I'm sure there are also guys that are de-escalators. And they're the guys that usually get promoted, like through the ranks. But, you know, this guy Chauvin, who's basically on the streets for, you know, 14 years, never promoted, you know, or barely promoted, so I should say, maybe that shows a sign of what the problem is.
Yeah,
you know,
there's going to be some more training or something going on. Something has to stop to where when somebody says they can't breathe, they have to let that knee up. They just can't let that go on. So that should have been a first response.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, even if, you know, for example, I've seen situations in Philadelphia where I have been not too far and I've seen a response, a police response. And if the first two show up and they have a problem, next thing you know, there's 10 of them. So what happens is nobody's going to resist arrest. And now you have kind of like a jury. Okay. It's really hard to get 10 guys to lie. So now 10 guys are there. Now the guy's going, well, I guess I better get in the car because there's 10 guys here. Right. So I don't know if the first two had a problem and the other two came in and said, watch this, I'm going to, you know, show my force. But whatever happened there seems to be the way not to do it. And I think everybody agreed on that. It wasn't like the country was defending that guy saying, oh, that was perfectly done police work. Everybody that saw the video said the same thing. That guy should not be a cop anymore, and that guy should get prosecuted. Right. And there's still riots, and there's still unrest. And instead of saying that, like, you know, we should maybe give these guys, you know, some not only training, but I think these guys need therapy, man, because the cops that I know that talk about the stuff that they see on one shift, just 1 8 to 12 hour shift. I mean, they get to see attempted murders and domestic violence and, you know, like really terrible stuff. And then you want to go home to your family and just hug your kids and be like, oh my God, that was a terrible night. Maybe these guys need help, honestly, because they are dealing with the worst case scenario.
Yeah,
it's almost like
the lowest of the lows. What's going on in society?
Every night they're literally called in to do the job that nobody else wants to do. Right. So, you know, I'm not defending that guy Chauvin at all, but I'm saying that if they're going to call for reform, maybe these guys need not to work 3 12-hour shifts in a row. maybe let these guys, get a break sometimes. I mean, they're just human beings, and they're dealing with stuff that human beings that I wouldn't want to deal with every day, and most people wouldn't. So, I mean, that's where I'm ready to talk. I'm not ready to talk where we're going to defund them and take all their money away and basically get rid of the police force, because that's just danger, man.
That's very dangerous. Let's go to another video with Trump about the bad apples. Take a look.
Okay.
Instead, we have to go the opposite way. We must invest more energy and resources in police training and recruiting and community engagement. We have to respect our police. We have to take care of our police. They're protecting us. And if they're allowed to do their job, they'll do a great job. And you always have a bad apple no matter where you go. You have bad apples. And there are not too many of them. And I can tell you there are not too many of them in the police department. We all know a lot of members of the police. I was listening today, and a friend of mine was on, very important person, said some of the best people he's ever met are policemen, law enforcement people. And they're taking care of people that in many cases they never even met before. And at great danger, at great risk. They get shot for no reason whatsoever other than they're wearing blue. They get knifed. You saw that the other night. It was a horrible thing. But there is no opportunity without safety.
There we go. So, as we talked about before, I mean, there's at least 2% bad apples in every organization.
Yeah, I would agree. And maybe, there's people in place that I think you have to create an environment for the police where it's okay for them to go in confidence and say, hey, listen, Officer Smith, he's having a bad way. His wife's leaving him. I don't think he should be, out there right now. He's really got a chip on his shoulder. Maybe, whatever. Maybe the environment right now is to not rat on a cop or maybe not say those things. And I think you maybe create an environment where it's okay, for those things to happen.
Right.
And then maybe you get more focused, more level-headed police officers, man. Because, like I said, they're people too. They go through stuff. And
they're not
there's
superhuman.
days, there's days I don't want to do my job because of what's going on in the background of my head.
Right.
And I can only imagine what it's like as an officer to be like, I don't want to deal with this right now. Whatever I got in my head, it's not going to blend with, an attempted robbery, an assault, a rape, and a murder. That's just going to turn me into a pot that's going to boil over. So, I mean, I think that's some of the things that need to be talked about first and foremost, maybe helping these cops instead of getting rid of them.
Right. I agree. All right. Well, we have a special date coming up, June 14th. Looks like that's Trump's birthday.
And mine.
Oh, that's right. And yours. Happy birthday, by the way. I almost forgot, actually, Bill.
Yeah, man.
Anyway.
Actually, look, I got my birthday present from my significant other today at the gun store.
Congratulations. I like it. And all your guns in the background, too, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
very nice.
It's the gift that keeps on giving.
Right, exactly. I know you like going to the gun range and shooting and have a good time. So,
I love it.
So anyway, we had a special thing. I actually rented a boat for this coming June 14th. Me and the wife is going to go out and celebrate
this
event. So let's take a look and see what it's all about. There we go. So
Wow, I saw one California location in there. I was very surprised. Wherever Marina Del Rey is, I'm pretty sure that they must feel safe to do that.
Yes, I guess it's a Republican town.
It's got to be.
South Carolina, mostly Florida though. So,
no, mostly. I mean, can you imagine people this fired up over George Bush?
No.
Or can you imagine like any other like Republican where people were this much in support? And part of it goes into what's on the other side. I mean, Trump gets so much support because he's the only thing left of America. Like everything else is tear America to shreds, start over from scratch, level it down, take everything and just start over. And what it is we're divided. 50% of the country is like, nope, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never seen this kind of support for a president. I mean, now granted, wait, the flip side of this is Obama. If Obama had, whatever, people got involved. He energized people too. But Trump is energizing people, and the media makes it seem like because I'm a Trump supporter, oh, he's energizing the wrong people.
Right.
But I'm still on the 50% of this country. So it's like, 50% voted for Trump, and we're energized. Like his base, I'll speak for me. I'm energized. I'm ready to vote. I want to move forward. I want this to happen. I think he's entitled to 4 more years. I think he earned it. He's shown perseverance. He's actually avoided wars that I think anyone else would have got into conflicts with.
Right.
And I think he's been poked and prodded and punched in the face and literally stood down. And the only thing to his detriment is they go, oh, he's mean to the press. Okay, well, were the press very nice to him? I mean, honestly, you're allowed to like talk and have recourse, and you know what I mean? Like they make it seem like a president's not allowed. Well, a president's never faced this level of BS from the press. So guess what?
Seeing is decisive. I mean, they pit people against each other.
Yeah, and I mean, they only make money, like, we talk about it all the time, the legacy media. They only make money if there's a clash.
Right.
Can you imagine if they left Trump alone and let his work speak for itself and let the entire country, black, white, Latino, whoever it was, be successful?
Right.
Because then you don't need the Democratic Party, which is the party of outrage and uprising and everything's falling apart. When he pulls America together, then you don't need them. So they are fighting to survive. And honestly, Biden's not really the guy, if you ask me. But hey, I'm glad he's there because I think Trump, he's going to pull it out.
Yeah, I agree. So, well, that's the show tonight. I appreciate you watching. Make sure you listen to us and subscribe. And we'll see you next time.
Yep. See you next Tuesday.
Like it's official. RNC convention's coming to Jacksonville.
Really? They just posted something?
Looks like it.
Cool. It's a good spot for it. And that's what, did they post a date? August 21st?